Good morning, everyone. On the behalf of Sustainable Development Policy Institute, I welcome you all to this policy launch event of the policy report on from solar boom to green industrialization, policy pathways to localizing solar value chains in Pakistan. And this has been organized by SDPI in collaboration with the University of Bath under a project on sustainability governance of the Chinese overseas investments, the SCAME. So my name is Obed, and I'll be moderating as well as speaking in this session. I'm currently working as the head of energy unit in SDPI. So firstly, thank you everyone for joining us both in person as well as online, especially the team from the University of Bath, Dr. Ishan, Faisal Sharif Saab. Thank you so much for joining us all the way from UK. So we'll be going towards the technical discussion, but let me very shortly set the agenda and some of the housekeeping rules for today. So we'll initially be starting with Dr. Khalid Waleed from his initial scene setting, and then moving towards the presentation, a technical presentation on the policy report that the partner organizations have prepared. And after that, we'll be going towards a roundtable discussion, and again, a really interesting line of speakers from both the public, the private sector, as well as the civil society and academia. And followed by that would be a back and forth roundtable as well as a Q&A and a discussion session where everyone who's joined us either in person or online can participate. Now, just for a few of the housekeeping rules, along with Zoom, today's session is being live streamed on different social media platforms where we have been joined by some of our distinguished guests as well. And the session is being recorded and the video will be posted online. You're welcome to revisit the discussion later and feel free to share it within your networks as well. We do invite questions, just like I also previously mentioned. And for those who have joined us online, you can either click on the raise hand tab, or you can else write your question in the chat or the Q&A box, and we'll pick it up directly from there as well. And please have the chat box open in window as well as, or you can also kind of indicate it raising hand as well. So I think we'll very shortly be joined by the colleagues from the Ministry of Industries and Production as well as Private Power Infrastructure Board. But I think just in interest of time, we should begin the discussion. So again, before coming to the technical discussion, let me set very brief ideas of why we are actually having this consultation. So again, one thing that SDPI has been discussing, I think, for a long time now is the changing landscape of Pakistan's energy sector, and mainly that is led by the solar PV uptake, or the we also kind of call it solar rush that is happening in Pakistan. That's now is kind of quite a story. And again, the main indicator is that, and one point throughout the discussion as we do today, we should kind of reminding or resonating is the very organic or very people-driven nature of the uptake that we have actually seen. I mean, again, and this uptake has been at the residential, industrial, agriculture, all sides as well. So again, just to very briefly highlight some of the numbers, I know the report has the numbers of its own, but just again, if you only take the numbers from the customs that you actually get, the solar PV imports in Pakistan have now, I mean, I'm talking about all the data compiled. It has actually now crossed roughly 50 gigawatts, and that's again something we have been discussing is much is even larger than the total installed capacity. Definitely not all of it is installed, but still you can actually see the increasing quantum of the net metering. You can actually see it from your eyes of off-grid solar PVs installed all across Pakistan as well. And I think now even many of the organizations have also did some studies and tried to come up with the numbers of the off-grid systems. And I mean, based upon the difference in assumptions, different studies have taken, they do even range from 18 gigawatts to up to 33 gigawatts as per different studies. And that is something that is installed in Pakistan. But the point is that there is again a solar PV happening, the uptake happening since some time, and it is again expected to further increase. Now, the second point I'll kind of mention here is that one thing that we all know is that also the most part of it is imported. And that import is also dominated pretty much by China. But China, by estimates, also spent, we all know, a huge amount of money within the CPEC framework. They've also, again, if you look at this quantum, that's again a huge number of investments that have come in through this channel as well. Yeah. So now, although this uptake has actually mobilized the socioeconomics of the community, just like I kind of mentioned, Again, it is still an import dependent or import dominated model where we see the direct tech transfer, not a lot of the human or the resource building to a very high extent. However, in this debate, one of the key questions that we had to discuss today is also, again, based upon the one of the findings, how would it make the economic sense and for actually what? Again, this is a function of the cost. We all pretty much agree to that. The last point before going forward is that we all know that Pakistan and China have actually entered the second phase of the special economic China-Pakistan economic corridor, that is about industrialization, especially under the special economic zones that are committed. So how can they actually be supported? And then many further opportunities exist that can provide win-win opportunity for both China and Pakistan. So this was actually the context in which this policy paper was developed that provides some key recommendations for taking the agenda forward. So a discussion would basically be on two fronts. What are the key findings from the study and what roadmap is presented there? And how do we actually take these recommendations and the roadmap forward, where we would really appreciate the responses from our experts as well. Again, before going that, so with this, let me go towards the formal start of the session. For that, let me invite Dr. Khalid Waleed from STPI. Dr. Khalid is an energy economist working as a research fellow at STPI. Dr. Khalid, over to you.
Well, thank you so much. I'm not really sure that you have left anything for me to say, but yeah, I'll try to add to it. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us. Dr. Ishan, I can see Afaq Saab as well, Dr. Hassan Daud and Mr. Faisal Sharif. Thank you so much for supporting us, for taking this debate where we celebrated Pakistan's solar boom, solar revolution to one step further, and that is how to link it with green industrialization. When I say we have celebrated our solar boom, we have celebrated enough, I think. We need to sort of use it as a stepping stone towards green industrialization, which is very relevant for Pakistan's problems, particularly what I always mention, that is 3E crisis of Pakistan: economy, energy, environment. We need to interlink these three crises and found a solution that sort of integrate these three problems in a way that environmental solutions emerging from energy arena, they sort of solve Pakistan's economic problem. And I think this report can be the hallmark for that integration that we direly need. Ladies and gentlemen, Pakistan right now is under IMF program. There are two programs of IMF right now. First is that traditional historical program focused on economic stability, the macroeconomic stability. Second is focused on climate change, the resilience and sustainability facility. And under that program, we have this conditionality that Pakistan needs to erode, eliminate all these electricity subsidies that are being provided to protected consumers. That will have consequences. And I think for that, solar could be a one very good positive solution where we can invest. To invest, when I say invest, I think we need to indigenize, we need to localize the solar value chain. When you talk about indigenization, I always mention the endogenous growth theory, where you divide your labor into two categories. First is your physical labor, manufacturing labor, and second is your research labor. Coordination between these two is very important. This is what STPI, with the support of University of Bath, is doing, that we are combining research labor with manufacturing labor so that ideas and efficient production processes, they sort of join hand, and we help our manufacturing labor in terms of industrialization, particularly green industrialization. That is very important. Another aspect that we need to sort of link to our policies or programs or projects to the broader planning of the government. And that is economic planning, broader economic plan, that is national economy transformation plan. We all know that it is Udan Pakistan. It has 5 components: exports, energy, empowerment, and environment. And lastly, e-Pakistan, that is the digitalization of Pakistan's economy. This report sort of integrate all these five E's, particularly If you see it from a standpoint of energy, obviously, if we localize the solar value chain in Pakistan, it will provide Pakistan with a good impetus in energy sector. Just to quote you some numbers, as Ubaid rightly mentioned, Pakistan has imported solar panels worth like 2 to 3 billion USDs, Sarah? 4 billion USDs, and the capacity is around 22 gigawatts to 30 gigawatts. The extent varies. But Pakistan has also taken debt-based finance from China, around 9 billion USDs, to build around 6 gigawatts of coal power plants. So this is the power where G2G contracts versus B2B contracts, they are more efficient, more equitable. So yeah, we can indigenize, we can localize, but to localize and indigenize, we do not have to reinvent the wheel. We need to invest in a way that some innovative product, some value addition comes along as well. For Pakistan, I think value addition could be if Pakistan, under IMF's conditionality, is eroding subsidies, Pakistan can manufacture in first phase solar panels for those who are consuming 200 units and less, because China's a competitive advantage in building larger solar panels. Maybe Pakistan can tailored, and Pakistani industries, they can manufacture those tailored units for Pakistani needs. And then in second stage, we can sort of upscale that industry, and we can aim for the stars, particularly for exports and other sort of thing, and related industries as well, battery storage, inverters, and other sort of things. So I think the solution lies in indigenization and localization, but we need to capitalize on China's manpower, on China's expertise, so that we go in a harmony and there is a win-win situation, solution for it. Tanveer Mirza Saab has also joined us. Thank you, Tanveer Saab. Okay, so what a feasible path can look like is Pakistan should invite Chinese industries to relocate in Pakistan's special economic zones, because we all know that China has this problem of expensive labor now. We can invite them to relocate to Pakistan's special economic zone, and we can use our labor, not just the manufacturing labor, the research labor as well, and we can kickstart this process. Lastly, I would like to mention that we also need to build an industry and localize recycling of solar panels as well, because these materials, Pakistan have extensively installed these materials, and around 5 to 10 years later, I think we would be needing a circular economy, or circular economy of solar panels as well. So that industry would be direly needed as well. I'll end, and looking forward to discussion. I'll end on Udan Pakistan again. Udan Pakistan sort of integrate these 5 E's: E-Pakistan, exports, energy, empowerment, and environment. I'll focus on empowerment as well. This localization aspect, or localizing of solar value chain, can provide much needed empowerment to Pakistani community as well, particularly women as well. So when localizing this supply chain, I think we need to take into account the gender aspect as well, particularly for small and medium enterprises as well. So yeah, looking forward to a great debate. Again, thanks to the authors for this wonderful report. Back to you, Pat. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much, Dr. Khalid, for highlighting the three framework and then connecting with these recent developments talking about. So with this, I think let me let's move towards the technical presentation we all really wanted. Before that, let me also introduce the team and the key resources behind this. So yes, I think initially the presentation would be given by Dr. Ishan Sen. Dr. Ishan Sen is an associate professor in International Development Department at the University of Bath, and also the lead of SGAIN project. And along with him, it would be delivered by Mr. Faisal Sharif Wattu. Again, one of the doctoral researcher, climate sustainability and energy transition, and University of Bath. But at the same time, let me also acknowledge the efforts of Mr. Sarim Zia and Ms. Aisha Naeem, both working as a researcher in STPI, along with Dr. Khalid himself and Dr. Hina Aslam, visiting fellow at STPI. So with this, I think, thank you so much, Dr. Ishan, for joining us. And I think you have already shared the the screen. If you could just turn the slide sharing mode on, and yes, with this, over to you. Thank you.
Thanks, Ubed. I'm just trying to see if you can see the full screen of the slide.
Yes, we can.
Okay,
Now we
thank you,
cannot.
everyone.
Previously, it was good. Yeah, now it's okay.
It's okay or not? So
It's changing. It's changing. Yeah, it's okay as of now. Yeah.
it's okay?
Yes.
Okay. Great. Good afternoon, dear distinguished colleagues in Islamabad. It is our pleasure and honor to join this event and discuss of this policy report. So I think our colleagues of SDPI have already given a lot of details about the report. I think what we are trying to do here is to give a very high level overview of the report. Especially, I think we focus here on two questions: why we want to propose a localization of solar industry in Pakistan and how we can do that. I think particularly important is the question of how to do it. So basically, here we develop or propose a policy roadmap and with the so-called 5S. We'll give you more details, and then we would like to hear your thoughts and your feedback and think about how we can move forward. So let me just start with the broader context. So basically, I think as Dr. Khalid mentioned earlier, so we want to think about what's the next step of this solar boom in Pakistan. I think we all know the story of solar boom, and I think which is actually a very positive story, also widely shared around the world in terms of clean energy transition and net zero transition. Here, I think we just want to show this figure about Pakistan's solar panel imports from China, because most of the panels are from China. And I think according to various data, we can quite confidently state that at least I think over 22 gigawatt of solar panels were imported to Pakistan by Pakistan from mid 2023 until early 2025. And also, as shown in this figure, here are the data. And in August 2025, the trend continues. I think even in this year, throughout the year, I think the country continued to import a large amount of solar panels from China. I think, of course, I think we have to add some caveats here. I think not all the panels have been fully installed, and also the majority of the panels were not connected to the grid through net metering scheme. That means also we are wasting a lot of energy produced by these panels. However, I think there are still a lot of positive impact in terms of providing more affordable energy to households, to citizens in the country. And I think according to various estimates, I think we can also quite proudly say that solar has become a major source of electricity in the country. I think some estimates suggest that now at some point already in 2025, solar has passed 25% of power supply in the country, even surpassing many other sources, including all fossil fuels. Of course, I think we also need to add some caveats here, but still, I think we cannot denies now solar has become a major source in the country, but that means also there are some socio-economic implications here. Comes to the question of why we need to think about localization, but not just like only celebrating the solar boom or solar rush. First, I think on the economic side, I think as mentioned, the economic impact is super important. What we have seen is the country has spent over 4.1 billion US dollars on imports of solar equipment. But these are purely like spending and not thinking about any economic benefits. That means just trying to pay the bills to get these equipment. So what are the potential economic benefits? We haven't seen any development of the local solar industry. So it's largely underdeveloped or undeveloped at all. At the same time, I think from like electricity market perspective, but we have seen also with the growth of decentralized solar system, there has been a huge pressure on the grid because of the reduction of demand from the grid. That means the electricity tariff have also increased significantly. That actually reinforce inequality and energy injustice in the country because poor consumers or households cannot afford solar panels. They have to actually pay more for electricity price. However, from industrialization perspective, we know that all countries in the world now realize the potential benefits of net zero transition if they can go down to the road of industrialization. This is not only for developing countries, but also many developed countries. But then the question is how we can unleash that potential. So what is interesting to notice here is also an important trend in terms of foreign direct investment in clean energy, clean technology, manufacturing from China to the world. I think according to some estimates, over 200 billion US dollars investment have been made by Chinese companies in the last 3 years, especially in the global south on clean technology manufacturing. And if we look at the solar itself, I think the majority or over 75% of this investment went to global south countries, especially in Southeast Asia. And then interestingly, if we compare this major destination of solar manufacturing investment from China, these are mostly like Southeastern Asian countries listed here, like Vietnam, Malaysia, Indonesia, and Thailand. Compared to Pakistan, what we can see, there's a huge market here in the country, but in Pakistan, we haven't received any investment in this domain. That means there is still a huge potential or untapped opportunities of green industrialization if we can really incentivize foreign investment in clean tech, especially from Chinese companies who are the major or dominant players in this sector. So I think there is also an economic case there that we want to highlight. So then I think we also look at the policy or the political environment to see why this can be a huge opportunities for both sides. We really identify what are these opportunities for both Pakistan and Chinese, and also not only the governments, but also from a company's perspective. Of course, I think we start with the policy landscape. So I think on the recipient country, Pakistan side, what we can see is these are actually win-win opportunities across different areas, as mentioned earlier by colleagues at SDPI. Think about the climate change mitigation and benefits, environmental benefits, and we have to meet the Paris Agreement targets to reduce emissions. And that means also clean energy transition is necessary and urgently needed. And this is definitely part of the answer. At the same time, on the economic side, I think really there is an urgent need to reduce import dependency and also make solar energy more affordable if we can reduce the cost by producing panels and other equipment locally. Of course, thinking in the longer term, but I think the cheap labor cost in the countries should be used to promote that strategy. And now, of course, I think there is a benefit in terms of job creation and still, especially in terms of the skilled workforce. And potentially, if an industry can be built in the country, that can also open the new markets and then use Pakistan as an industry hub to export related products to the region, especially in South Asia and Central Asia. And from Chinese perspective, especially for companies, I think it's important to diversify productions, especially given the recent trade barriers or tariff issues between China and some developed countries. I think we know that the US and Europe has a strong agenda to diversify or de-risk supply chains from China. That means they also need new production bases. But more importantly, from an economic perspective, I think the potential of cheap labor cost in developing countries, in other global south countries, is a huge opportunity for Chinese companies. to leverage and also potentially to expand new basis to export products to other markets, not only local markets, but also the regional markets. I think at the same time, we also need to understand the political economy in China for companies to align their strategies with the government strategy. Here, I think we talk about the Green Belt and Road Initiative, which means a green export, a green trade, and green value chains is a very important issue for companies to think about and how to align their practices with the government's strategy. And particularly in the case of China-Pakistan Economic Corridor in the second phase or the second decade of the CPEC, I think what we have been talking about is actually the green CPEC, but also the business to business and trying to encourage green investment, green trade, and green finance. So this is why I think there is also a strong interest for Chinese companies to think about how they can engage with this agenda. So of course, there are a lot of opportunities for both sides, but at the same time, if you look at the environment, the investment environment in Pakistan, we have identified also a series of bottlenecks. Basically, these bottlenecks can be grouped into three areas. So the first one is on the policy and the regulations. Here, of course, we have done a lot of consultations with different stakeholders. What we have institutional fragmentation have been also mentioned, because we know there are so many different government agencies that can be involved in these areas. Think about these industries and also the climate mitigation policy, and then end of life use for solar panels. So these are just some specific examples here. But more importantly, if we look at the second areas is about the economic and market constraints. I think we have heard about the lack of strong industrial base to actually localize the production. Still, I think especially if you think about the supply chains, you think about the panels, batteries, inverters. I think these are not the equipment that can be produced easily and can be quite expensive now if you compare with the production cost in China, because there we have already reached economy of scale, whereas in Pakistan, if you want to start with a new industry, it can be very costly at the beginning. I think the question here is also to think about what are the strategies that we need to develop. And now, of course, the main challenge is also about the fiscal limitation of the country. Given that Pakistan is under IMF program, there's a very little freedom for the country to use different policy tools to incentivize foreign investment. Of course, I think we mentioned about these cost issues and then how countries can actually use industrial policy and to support green industry. That's an interesting question, not only to Pakistan, but to all countries who want to develop green industries. But I think the particular challenge here is actually the lack of resources in the country. And that means how we can provide strong incentives for foreign investors. I think that's a big question mark here. And then finally, I think we also have to consider human resources and the technology gaps there. At the moment, although I think there is a strong workforce that can be potentially used to this new industry, there's still a lack of training and for specialized workers, and then how we can start some training programs. At the same time, also in thinking about the research and development side, because we haven't seen a very very strong linkages between researchers and the industry, especially academia and industry. So I think there is also a shortfall of like researchers, but also technical experts in these areas. Then even if we have some investment project, then you need people to work in these areas and to create jobs. That means people, like suitable people, can be hired to work in this industry. Otherwise, I think investors have to bring, for example, what we have seen in the case of Chinese investment, they have to bring technicians from China, which is not the ideal scenario. So I think these are all the bottlenecks that we have to consider, and then to apply to apply the case of localizing solar industry in Pakistan and think about how we can engage with Chinese investors. And here, I think this is the roadmap we try to propose, which include 5 areas, all start with S, namely strategy, subsidies, standards, social economic zones, special economic zones, and science and knowledge. I think they link from long-term strategies also to specific policy tools in terms of tax reforms, standards, and also how to start some industrial hubs for the industry, and also how to start training and and research and development programs or innovation programs. So I'll pass this to my colleagues Mohammed Fazil Sharif to give you more details about each of these this strategy, the roadmap. So let's start with strategy. Fazil, please.
Thanks, Ishan. If you can just stop sharing, and I can share my my slides.
No, I can share. I can share for you. So you can
okay,
just
no problem.
Yeah.
Okay, no problem. So thank you so much for providing this broad overview and analytical framing of the reports. And first of all, I would like to extend my greetings to colleagues gathered at STPI and those who joined us online. Thank you so much, and Assalamu alaikum and very good afternoon. So building on the overview provided by Dr. Ishan, so now I will walk you through each of the 5S pillars, particularly connecting with specific policy actions and implementation pathways to localize the solar value chain, to overcome the bottlenecks mentioned in earlier part of the presentation, and translate that people-led transition towards green industrialization. So the first pillar of this roadmap is a strategy. And at the core of the localization is, I think, the strong institutional coordination, which is currently fragmented between various ministries, multiple ministries, and departments. So at the outset, we propose establishing a solar industrial task force under the Ministry of Industry and Production to coordinate among federal and provincial institutions, monitor the localization targets, and localization targets, and align the reforms between industrial, trade, and energy sectors. So that can be supported by a long-term national policy framework, which is currently missing in this whole context, and it's very essential to provide a clarity to investors about the eligible technologies, the fiscal incentives, the land access, and investment protections. And then I think we propose in a report that this whole mechanism can be implemented in a phased approach, like starting from a base of balance of system equipment, small equipment, and to then gradually moving towards the large scale indigenization. So this because the demand is quite predictable in the small like the inverters and racking and installations. Demand is quite predictable, and the impact of cost on the affordability can be managed. So once these small small section is localized, and that can provide, I think, provide a groundwork for the deeper industrialization for the large scale localization. And in parallel, I think the most important thing is that Pakistan also need to create a viable domestic demand through a tailored solution, such as first focusing on, for example, the tube wells in Balochistan and then rooftop solar system for protected consumers consuming less than 200 units in a month, so that instead of directly competing with the China on the large scale. In the long run, I think the strategy should be that export oriented, and starting from hybrid system like small inverter batteries panels, and gradually moving the OEM based in China towards the local productions. Ishan, can you please move to next slide? So once there's a clear policy directions, the clear strategic directions, and the coordination mechanism, the next question is that how the policy signals are aligned with the policy signals, and policy directions and market signals can be aligned to make this localization a commercially viable case. So the first key step is to rationalize the duties and taxes across the value chain, gradually decreasing the taxes on the components and increasing the increasing the duties on the finished products, preserve equity solar excess. So it can be again proposed to do in a tiered manners. Like first, the rural communities and the low income communities can be allowed for the imported equipments, and the urban users and the industrial installations can be done through the localized products. I think the financing is always a major constant for Pakistan, and for kind of through a blended finance vehicle, combining the public funding along with the development partner supports, it can de-risk the early investments. But obviously, that is not sufficient for large-scale projects, which have kind of their own issues, which needs to capitalize the private sector investments and market-led mechanisms. So there we need to overcome the structural barriers in land access, in the approval process, in the regulatory frameworks. So that is kind of a different treatment needed for the large scale projects. But for the earlier small scale deployments, I think the tier deployments, the blended finance can de-risk the manufacturing investments. And in parallel, there's an urgent need to create a local contents and public procurement targets in the government's own projects and the utility scale projects. So that will create a kind of demands, and it will also give a confidence to the foreign investors, particularly the Chinese, to invest in the upstream productions. Ishan, can you please move to next slide? Okay. Okay. So building on the strategy and then incentives, the next pillar is the standards. So which is very crucial for the technology transfer and upgrade the localization of the solar PV chain. The first step I think the country need to take is to establish an active nation certificate. I know there are some certification bodies, but we need to have active and operational national certification bodies to support the clean energy technologies, and that body can be set up under the lead of Engineering Development Board of Ministry of Science and Technology in line with the best international practices, and this body can oversee the conformity, the kind of export licensing and other issues related to the technology transfer. And once we have an active national certification body, then this need to establish a national technical standards to support the technology transfer, and this will help to improve the product quality and also enhance the country ability to access to carbon markets, whether it's a volunteer markets or the compliance markets, and that will help to generate kind of climate financing. The report particularly emphasizes on the life cycle regulation, life cycle and the circular economy approach to overcome circular economy approach, particularly based on the lifelong planning, covering from payback, take back arrangements, e-waste, and the recycling of the solar panels to and these I think these things need to be incorporated in the regulatory approval process, such as NEPRA's licensing arrangements, and also the environmental approval process, which is kindly governed by the environmental protection agencies, to bound the companies to comply with these requirements. And to support this standardization, we think that there need to be a comprehensive implementation ecosystem, comprising of the testing bodies, the certification agencies, and auditing firms built through a public-private partnership, and that will provide kind of confidence to international investors, international markets, and also the domestic users. Ishan, please, the next slide. Okay. So when we have the standards and everything in place, so the question is where these large scale solar manufacturing units should be housed physically. So I think Pakistan luckily have a kind of special economic zones already, which are currently underutilized. So the special economic zones under China-Pakistan Economic Corridor 2, that can provide a ready-made platform to house these large manufacturing clustered under CPEC 2, and through joint ventures with the Chinese firms, along with the land access, the concessional utility services, and other kind of essential services through these special economic zones. And these special economic zones can act as an anchor for the green industrial scale up, moving the country from current lower value assembly towards the production, and ultimately aligning it with the global markets. These special economic zones can also serve as the innovative hub for the new startups, in whether those are inverters or the software, the kind of other business related to the green industrialization of the solar PV chain. Ishan, can you please move to next slide? Okay. So even if we have everything in place, like all four S, starting from the strategy and then incentives, standards, and location, but I think the most important area is the human resource development. And here, I think the role of academia and research institutions comes, because Pakistan currently, I think, lacks deep expertise in the solar manufacturing. So the technology transfer should go hand in hand with the human resource development, continuous human resource developments. There's need to reforms the curriculum, introduce kind of new degree program at the university level, catering these requirements, and having a collaborative research projects at university level, the postgraduates level, in collaboration with Chinese partner, to focus on the system efficiency and overall system designs. Then not at beyond formal education level, there's also need to the report proposed a joint research and development between academia and industry, along with the Chinese partners, to overcome the cost issues, overcome the local skills issues. So these are the areas where the research and development can play an important roles. And finally, I think the skilled labor is very important, and we have already the platform like vocational training institute. So the short courses related to the skill enhancements of these labors should be integrated, whether it's about the solar PV chain or related to other associated services in the curriculum of these vocational institutes, and that can provide a skilled labor to country. And I would also like to mention here that I recently I was going through a research paper, and that shows that even if we study the China case of the localization, that is not merely due to the cost reduction, but it's a very strategical acquiring the technology from earlier innovators, and kind of in heavily investments in the human scale developments. I think around more than 60% of Chinese leadership of the solar PV companies, either they studied abroad or they worked in international firms and then acquired the international experience, and they brought that experience at home. So this shows that how the kind of knowledge exchange is important to indigenize these value chains, and that is the case for Pakistan, where we need to learn from the international experience. We don't need to obviously we don't need to invent anything, but we need to learn from the international experience and then implement that in Pakistan. Ishan, next slide. So now to conclude, I think we Pakistan solar rush and Pakistan's energy demands have already created opportunity for the localization of value chain. This localization can obviously enhance our energy security and economic resilience, but at the same time, because China has been shifting its investments in the manufacturing towards the global south countries, Ishan have already mentioned number of countries those have availed the local manufacturing opportunities in their country. They have, and Pakistan is one of those. Pakistan have already have more kind of demands than those countries. So this is a win-win opportunity if Pakistan can enhance its energy security and China can shift its overseas investment towards the Pakistan, which is a very potential kind of promising markets. And then obviously the country need a very clear strategic direction, and the reports comprehensively present the 5S roadmaps. Or roadmaps which provide a very clear direction and strategy for localization of this value chain, and translate this people-led transition into towards more systematic and integrated kind of energy transition that will obviously productive and useful for the system sustainability in long term. So though we have a challenges, there are a number of challenges at the like the institutional coordination, the fragmented mandates, fiscal constraints. But these all challenges are policy addressable. These are not the structural constraints. So through these kinds of policy measures, we can address these challenges and move towards the indigenization of the solar and or all other related equipments. And the immediate gain from this kind of localization is obviously in kind of, because we have already spent $4 billion on the solar imports, and this is I think it's a 25% of the country's annual, more than 25% of the country's annual import bills. So the immediate relief will be, of course, the reduction in the import bills, a kind of development of the local industry, which will obviously create employment opportunities for the local and also empower the local communities to avail this distributed energy solution. So finally, the goal of this as a long run vision, the objective of this localization is not just kind of industrial objective, but it's a kind of moving towards more a more affordable and clean energy system, resilient economy, and climate friendly environmental future. I think perhaps the most important takeaway from international experience, which we have discussed in the reports, and most important area is those countries are only this kind of indigenization is not automatic. So only those countries have the kind of localization which provided clear policy direction, predictable demands, and strong institutional coordinations. And without these conditions, the country tends to remain part dependent on the imported like solutions. And I think no other country other than Pakistan can understand the cost of power dependency. We have been facing this power dependency from long, since the liberalization of the electricity WAPDA, heavily relying on the imported fuels, and then a kind of highly power dependent towards large grid connected projects. So I think it's time to move towards a more decentralized solution in a very balanced approach, and at the same time to avoid a future power dependency. It's urgent, and it's a time to move towards localize this value chain to avoid the kind of new power dependency in the near future, where obviously we will achieve the clean energy targets, but that the way we are implementing solar, because obviously the solar implementation is along outside the former policy framework. The majority of the solar, I'm not talking about net metering, so it need to be integrated and it need to be localized to gain the maximum advantage out of the solar value chain. Next. Yeah, so thank you so much for your time and patience, and you can download the reports from the QR codes, and you can follow our work at SK at University of Bath, and we will be Happy to stay connected with you and hear your feedback on this report. Thank you so much.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Dr. Ishan Faisal Saab, for sharing the highlights of the report. Really, really, I'm personally looking to the key recommendations and the 5S roadmap that has been presented. Dr. Ishan, can I request if you could just take the, display the slide that has the recommendations on it, the key recommendations that were presented from coming out from the report, if that is possible. Again, we've also been joined by Aftab Saab now. Aftab Saab, a lot of recommendations coming out of the report also are again a lot relevant to your department. Just for the furthers, Aftab Saab is from NPO under the Ministry of Industries and Production, but we'll take you a bit later. Perhaps let's initially also listen what some of the what we can do is, going forward into the roundtable discussion, we can divide it into three main questions or the themes. One is that a policy framework that is proposed in the report. Second, towards the industrialization pathways, SCZs, and the finance, and then towards what the priority focus going forward from these suggestions should be, and how do we actually take it from the this report to the implementation side. Again, that was again initial idea. Aftab Sab, if are you with us? Yes, perfect. So before coming to you, Aftab Sab, so we actually have, when you already have the policy brief that Dr. Ishan and Faisal have already presented. You were also during its engaged during its in initial consultations as well as stakeholders workshop. So what the policy report on the localizing solar PV kind of presents is a 5S roadmap for localizing solar PV manufacturing in Pakistan. Just one of the very key recommendations that's coming out of it is a national long-term national solar localization strategy. So just in 1 minute, Dr. Ishan, do you want to add anything before Aftab Saab responds to this point?
I'm okay, but did you mean to show this slide? I just want to
Yes,
make
that's
sure.
yeah. This is
Okay.
this.
I think
Yeah.
no, I think Ishan, if we can, because we have 7 very concise recommendation, if we can, instead of this slide, if we can share
Sure.
the executive summary page,
Yeah.
so that lists the 7 key recommendation emerged from the 5S frameworks. So that will be, I think, more convenient for audience
But
to
that's
understand
on
those
the
recommendations.
report, so
Yeah.
too bad that we have shared, I guess, by email
Yeah.
before
Sure.
the.
Sure.
Okay.
That
So
works.
But
this is in the
so
executive summary,
maybe
page 1.
yeah, but I think I'm not sure if yeah, we can try, but
Sure.
the
I'll share it from my end, Dr. Ishan. I'll share it from
No,
my end.
no,
So no worries.
okay.
if you give me
Yeah.
access, I can share.
Sure. I think Omer, if you can allow the access, you already have the access, Faisal Saab. Sure. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
You can share it from your end as well.
Okay.
So Aftab Saab, will be coming to you just in
So can you,
1 minute. I think. Yes.
Obed, can you
Sure.
see the recommendations?
Yes, we can see the screen. If you can just enlarge the size. Yes. So
Sorry.
yes, and again, I think we can perhaps keep this slide on the display since while the speakers are speaking. So Aftab Sab, one of the very key first recommendations is to kind of establish a national solar industrialization task force under the Ministry of Industries and Production that could actually develop the long-term strategy, set milestones, and also coordinate actions across key federal and provincial entities for the solar local PV manufacturing that we have been talking about. So we all know that, I mean, we have also been discussing with you, MOIP and through its Engineering Development Board is also preparing its solar policy. So if you have any suggestions or if you would like to kind of respond to this point. So with this, over to you, Aftab sir.
Okay. Thank you so much. I got a little bit late, and I can speak on the behalf of NPO and regarding the what I could see there in the 5S. So I think we may also add the technology readiness what we have right now at this stage. And for the solar localization, what are we going to address? Which area in industry we are going to address? the priority area, like it is lighting, it is the boiler, hot water. So and how much the efficiency means the land we need for each industry. So the demand side may also be, I think, mapping may be done on the supply of side, the end user. On the supply side, the technology components, if you have covered in the previous discussion, the technology part, what is the local readiness right now, and how we can, what is the timeline to make it mature, which enable us to localize it.
Sure, thank you. Later, perhaps we'll also kind of see if you'd like to respond to also the point around the possibility of establishing a national task force that can take this forward. But at this point, I think perhaps we can move forward with the debate around the green industrialization part, and then MOE colleagues would be joining us a little later, so we'll take them a little later.
The other thing, what is the partnership, the private sector? The role of the responsibility of the government, industry, private sector, and are we going to develop the manufacturing and suppliers in the private sector, and what is the ratio of contribution in that as well?
Sure. Yeah. Very well noted point. So moving towards the second theme, that is around the industrialization pathways and the very relevant recommendations we have around the integrated solar clusters in the special economic zones under the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor. Again, we're very pleased to have with us Dr. Hassan Daud. But Dr. Hassan has been the key behind, or the key brains behind the CPEC as well. He's also currently now the senior advisor at the Energy China, as well as a professor at Bahia University. But Dr. Hassan, you have been working a lot around the SEZs. You've also kind of a part when we actually had one of its consultations at the SDPI's SDC as well. And I think, Umer, if you could also allow Dr. Hassan to share his screen, he would like to share some slides from his end as well. So, Dr. Hassan, over to you.
Thank you very much. Let me first, at the onset, congratulate Professor Sun and
Dr. Hassan, your voice is a little low.
Let me be louder, as loud as possible. Is it better now?
It's still very low. Yeah.
But we can hear.
Okay.
Yes, we can hear you. Yeah.
Wonderful. I just can we see the slide, please?
Yes, we can. If you can just turn on the screen sharing mode.
Yeah. So first of all, wonderful work by Dr. Sun and Mr. Faisal Sharif. I mean, after a long time, I was seeing a report which was based on some ground realities. You have to be very factual on what you have to highlight, especially in terms of policy recommendation. So based on your report, I've made few slides, and you can use them as per your convenience, and also perhaps SDPI can look at the larger aspect of this. So, we are looking at in Pakistan, and we keep speaking about our endowment and the potential. Sometimes we even go as big as rating ourselves as Asian tigers. And then we look at our industry also, and my colleague Aftab Khan Saab is here, and we keep speaking about how to graduate from where we are. Udan Pakistan, Dr. Khalid mentioned a lot about it. And green sustainability. But in order to understand the aspect which we are lacking here, in Pakistan especially, is the fundamental understanding of green economy versus or vis-a-vis sustainable economy. I mean, one focuses on short-term solution, the other looks at long-term solution. And one of the biggest impediment that we have had over the years has been long-term planning. And just look at, and Dr. Sun, we are very good in disturbing something which is even doing good. We have a we have a bumper crop. We we fail in, its distribution. We have good solarization, rooftop model, and then the government comes in and steps in with new ideas, which sometimes I fail where this stem from. Something which works well does not has to be disturbed because something else is being disturbed somewhere, based on. So I think your pathway, I think it's very clear, setting a stage, even going up to the extent of the emerging challenge that we might have in terms of solar waste. Because while I was preparing this, I looked at Neil Gaiman's book, and in which he has said sometimes we confuse in what we wish for and what actually lies. So this rooftop solarization has actually greatly, for once in Pakistan, helped the middle class. Our policy, our taxation policy is not even there, but this rooftop solarization, based on own initiative of the people and thanks to Chinese technology, has helped us. And therefore, we are, anxiously, I've been hearing about industrial policy for 2 years. And because industrial policy basically derives how and which industry should I work on. So from there, the manufacturing strategy, the pathway that you've highlighted, would would actually craft the technology upgradation model. And then we can look at clean energy transition, because it is making business sense. But what about those big mega projects, energy projects that we are doing? And can this solarization act as a base load for large scale industrialization? So, of course, China, as we know, has done well, from ion batteries to solar panel to electric vehicles, and the demand here. And you know, in Pakistan, for example, there's a hype around EVs, but we only have 35 electric vehicle charging station in Pakistan. So this is the gap between dream and reality. So you can have as many as EVs outside, but 35 charging stations do not make sense. So the ecosystem has to be refined. And therefore, we must learn from the new 15 5-year plan, from scale to quality, from decarbonization in terms of deep decarbonization, and the entire system has to be around market-based mechanism. And your fantastic report, and I would hope where you would circulate it as widely as possible, because the biggest challenge is this. Because in China, they have strong political will to do things. They have the pragmatic leadership, engineering mindset leadership, which works on models like the green transition. They have policy continuity and institutional alignment. And then the approach has to be people-centric. So therefore, this divide between have and have-nots is actually coming up as far as the rooftop solarization is there. And therefore, we have to work on this green CPAC, because the brown CPAC model will not work going forward. And of course, the biggest challenge there is the know-it-all approach of the power division. Just give them a policy and they make institute around that. So therefore, when you say that you want to have a committee or a working group, it frightens me all the time, because the end result is always a new institution, which again goes into a circular way. So I hope your recommendation is not taken in the same spirit, and soon we do not have another organization where you will be advertising for a CEO. And then from there, from rooftop growth all the way, the steps that you've highlighted very nicely towards value chain, and Faisal Sharif Saab actually gave these steps. The current gap because I represent university, I'm a professor here. The gap is so big that, divine power can bring this, because we like this as a slogan, industry academia linkages. But whether the manifestation can happen I have my doubt because the mindset is not there. And therefore, we have to actually look at the overall SWOT analysis. And this is all based on your report that I've done. The threat, the price competition coming from China, the macroeconomic instability, the grid and utility, and of course, the risk of policy reversal. I have placed in my rooftop these solar panels. And during that placement, two times the policy reversal came in. And of course, the narrative around that policy reversal. So the best way is that you start putting things in the newspaper, the middle class get frightened, and then at the all of a sudden you give a policy which is a complete reversal. And sometimes it's difficult to understand. So this heavy reliance on imported panel to gaps in scale, R&D, and quality standard is taking away the left part of strength and opportunities, which of course is also a manifestation of Pakistan-China friendship. So I'll end up this again by saying a green and reform-oriented CPEC offers Pakistan a pathway to resilient growth, fiscal sustainability, and global competitive industrialization. And that means competitiveness, resilience, and sustainable growth. Nothing less or more. Green SEZ, we've been speaking about it. We have not even had black SEZ, brown SEZs. So green SEZ is again a dream to have in future. So let's hope for the best. Brilliant
Yes.
report. This gives me a lot of food for further research with my students. So I will be reaching out to you, Dr. Som.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you so much, Dr. Hassan, for again in the points. And really well noted suggestions from your end as well. Let me now come to Dr. Umesh. Umesh, again, I know our Renewables First has also done a lot of work around this, but yeah. So your interventions and your thoughts on the firstly, perhaps the proposed framework that is mentioned, and also I know that Renewables First itself is also working around the green industrialization pathways as well. So with this, over to you.
Thank you, Ben. First things first, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you loud and clear.
Perfect. Assalamu alaikum ji. Good afternoon, everyone. I have few scattered thoughts in my mind. I would just present them and try my best that they don't look as scattered as they are right now in my mind. Firstly, I would like to appreciate the work that has been done by SDPI and by Sir Faisal, by Dr. Sun. It's a brilliant report. Almost a year ago, we also conceived a similar study at Renewables First, in which unfortunately, that publication never saw light of the day. It was never published. And the reason was that we were not able to develop an economic case for solar manufacturing in Pakistan. But now a lot of things have changed over this last year. So what we did in that report was that firstly, we saw that what's the status of PV manufacturing in Pakistan. Later on, we analyzed all of the steps of that supply chain. The mining, then the polysilicon, then the ingots and wafers, and so on and so forth. And then we see that what are the key strategic areas where Pakistan can enter. And we used the criteria that was once used by Becquerel Institute. They once did a study and they provided a roadmap that if any country wants to localize any technology, not just renewable, be it any technology in the world, then what should be the steps? What should be the criteria? So we did all the, we used to refer to that criteria as heat mapping. So when we did that, we came to know that the cell manufacturing can be one of the main key strategic areas for Pakistan, followed by the modules assembling, followed by the inverter assembling, followed by the battery manufacturing in Pakistan. Reason being that the battery manufacturing will yield the maximum profit. Now coming back to the 5S thing that you guys have proposed. Firstly, coming to the first thing is that we need to have a regulatory environment that is very important. I guess EDB is working on it, and we soon will have that policy. The second thing is subsidies. But if we try to take some lessons from the international policies. As Dr. Faisal has mentioned, as Dr. Hassan has mentioned, if you look at the case of Japan, if you look at the case of Korea, if you look at the case of India, they have performance-based subsidies, which means that you would be provided subsidies in case you achieve a certain quality in manufacturing. You will receive subsidies provided that you have achieved a certain export volume. You will receive subsidies provided that you have achieved a certain production volume. And only then those industries are eligible to get subsidies. As I mentioned that we were trying to perform this study last year. We happened to talk to Longi Solar, we happened to talk to Jinko Solar, Huawei also. And one of their managers, they mentioned this thing that why China moved to Vietnam? Because they have the raw material available. Why they moved to Malaysia and Indonesia? Because they have very clear regulatory frameworks available. And they said that if we consider that in Pakistan, we have got the raw material, we have got the investment, we have got everything right, there is one thing, and that is electricity prices. Imagine that in China, solar panels are being produced at 6 cents per unit. Now in Pakistan, last time I checked, it was rupees 44 per kilowatt hour, which means that the electricity price for industry is around somewhere 16 or 17 cents. So considering that we have got everything right, if we manufacture these panels here, they won't be as cost competitive as those of China's. Secondly, it has also been mentioned about the import tariffs in a tiered way, and that is a very important thing. When India rolled out its PLI scheme, they actually waited for 2 or 3 years to impose tariffs. And the reason was, I remember that one of their ministers who was leading that initiative, he mentioned that unless our domestic manufacturing capability is able to capture a certain quantum of the market, we won't implement, these import duties on solar products from China. So that is a very important thing, that we somehow keep a balance between our manufacturing capacity, the depth of our manufacturing capacity, and then how we are going to impose these import tariffs. Another important thing is that I guess Dr. Hassan would agree to it, is that there is always a problem of repatriation of profit. That many of the companies, they invest in Pakistan, but their money gets locked in Pakistan. And that has been mentioned by many of the companies that we consulted during our study. And that also directly or indirectly relates with ease of doing business index. So if we somehow make our standings or credits better in ease of doing business index, then that would also help this cause of bringing industry to Pakistan to invest in this specific renewable technology. Lastly, the point that is about the human development. I remember Europe started its European Innovation Technology Venture, I don't know, some 20 years ago, because they didn't have the labor. They didn't have actually the top talent. And the CEO of that venture, he always used to repeat himself. And he said that if you want to achieve cost leadership, you need to attract the top talent, which means that you need to have the right degree programs or the right training programs in order to develop this top talent, in order to achieve this cost leadership. So I have one or more 2 points, but I would stop here and let's the discussion grow further. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Umesh. And yes, again, well noted on the point around the economics of solar PV localization. Let me just take the same question and also these recommendations to our colleagues from Pakistan Solar Association. I know Hasnat Sab couldn't join us, but very fortunate to have with us Afaq Sab. Afaq Sab, I hope you can, we're audible to you. Yes, perfect. So if you have any suggestions or recommendations around, or suggestions or comments around these recommendations that the brief proposes.
Thank you very much. I would like to agree with Dr. Ubaid.
Afaq Sab, can you bring the mic a little closer? We cannot hear you read properly.
Let me check the sentence. Is it okay now?
Yes, perfect.
Okay, that's great. Okay, Assalamu alaikum everyone. Thank you for inviting us on this critical discussion. We had been doing since years, and we've been part of many such discussions. And I agree with Dr. Umas. He's right. He's quite right about things which he stated in his statement. Uh, there are so many barriers we do have in manufacturing, starting from labor, technology, policy, commitment from the government. So we definitely would like to encourage green localization, but the energy cost we have here, and we have negative industrial growth in Pakistan. So how can we expect someone else to come here and invest again over thing which is not clear at the moment? Though we have imported around, according to Renewable First report, $17 billion equipment, solar and allied equipment in last 7 years, but it was not anticipated by anyone here sitting here or anywhere else. It actually there are so many variables which led to this revolution. It was not planned, uh, and so is the case with now we are at this point of time where government is de-incentivizing net metering, switching to net billing, and we know the why they are doing that, because any solar added in the system actually negatively impact on the recovery and CPP, capacity payments, and everything, you know that. So uh, I don't know, according to Pakistan Solar Association, what value we are going to add in Pakistan by switching manufacturing here, because I think if I discuss like there is a very, I think assembly that is around 10% or something like that, and logistics and transportation is like 4 to 5%. That's the value we can add at the moment. So when it comes to solar panel manufacturing. So according to my understanding, first we need to digitalized our energy infrastructure, that we can have clarity of our energy objectives, and we need to train our resources up to the standards which actually need. For that, I would request that there should be a plan that our human resource from here may join the programs in China to learn and uh, to meet the standards, because the standards are very high. And I'm sorry to say, our local institutes are not up to the mark to facilitate the industry we are anticipating to localize in Pakistan. So digitalization of energy sector and the training of human resources, these things should be the first and foremost from our side. And I think I'm pretty much agree with every point Dr. Umar has made. So that is it from our side. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Faq No, on that point, we're pretty clear. Let me at this point check if, yes, Faisal Saab or Dr. Faisal Saab already has his hand up. Faisal Saab, please go ahead.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Dr. Hassan Dausa, for a very comprehensive analysis of the reports and for your appreciation. I think we need to work together. Obviously, academia plays an important role, and you also acted as director CPAC, so you have a kind of practical insight as well. Thank you so much. And yeah, I agree with partially agree with Omer's, and I think sorry, I forgot the name from PSA. It's
Afaq, yes.
Afaq. Yeah, but so I think we if we just look at the current situation, then obviously you can question the localization of solar PV chain about the economic case, but it's not always the case. Like in Pakistan particularly, we have been following kind of firefighting for last 30 years. I have a discussion few days back with an expert, and he said we have missed the opportunity for the localization. Yeah, as of now we can say it because there's a lot of solar import, and but if I just look at the net metering installations, every month there's 400 to 500 megawatts of new installations. So it's the current IGSAP set a quota for net metering around 8 gigawatts, but I think that 8 gigawatts is even not enough. If we look in a way, then obviously that does not you will not find economic case within it. But in long run, ultimately, first we need to recognize that this whole solar rush, for the time being, it's giving benefits to the consumer in kind of affordable energy, and that is kind of mistrust on the whole energy system and energy governance. But ultimately, if we want to continue in this way, this whole will create a mess kind of in planning, in policy. So first we need to streamline this kind of distributed solar installation, and then in long run, if you keep relying on imported energy sources, so I think that will be kind of new imported IPPs, as we have been seeing since 1992. That the issue with us is that we unfortunately we started things very well, but over the time we could not evolve with the changing dynamics. And after 30 years, we are still relying on the imported fuels and large grid connected projects, and that will be the case exactly the case with the solar installations. So I think it's a time. It's a good that we have started debates. There's a discussion on various aspects of these solar installations, and we need to think about a more cost-effective way, whether it's imported or local. I'll give an example here of the United Kingdom. They were pioneer in the offshore wind development, started a few years back, and they developed large offshore wind farms. And at that time, the offshore wind was not competitive with the onshore technologies. But over the time, they have done extensive research. That there was a time when I was doing MSc here, and my own projects was on offshore wind developments, and every university was taking projects on offshore wind projects. And now that technology has been extremely cost competitive. They have localized some of the value chains. So I will not say that we need to exactly apply that model in Pakistan. We have our own local context, but we need to take these things into consideration for the long run energy security and for the sustainability purpose. Otherwise, this whole system will not giving us the benefits, and that will kind of a new kind of CNGs in Pakistan, a kind of other such industries which in long run could not give a benefit to the economy, but kind of a burden on the national exchequer. It's just a time to think about these issues for in the long run, not just for the 2 or 3 years span.
Yes.
And on patriation of the funds, I'll say that in IPP model, we Pakistan's our policy allow the repatriation of the funds to the international investors, and I think those kind of provision can be adopted in short run, that not in the long run, because ultimately you have to retain some kind of benefits for the local communities and for the local economy. You cannot allow the investors to because we have faced that in foreign investments. But ultimately, there are ways to do it. There are kind of steps we can take to streamline the regulatory and approval process to create an ease of doing business for the investor and to attract them, providing them investment protection through various means. There are tools and there are means we can apply for that, and we can have, I think about a long term, not just for 2 or 3 years span period.
Perfect. Thank you so
Thank you.
much, Faisal Saab. I know I can already see Afaq Saab has his hand up. But before, coming to that, let me also again agreeing partially with Faisal Saab again. Umesh, the point around the financing or the economics of the solar, I mean, if you just talked about the solar PV manufacturing, then definitely our prices in Pakistan are much higher than that. But China's low electricity prices are kind of a result of these a very long decade of what we should say state-led industrial policy and subsidy, and perhaps not a benchmark that Pakistan can very immediately replicate. But if you look at kind of from a perspective of the overall solar PV value chain, then I think in that context, a lot of opportunities does exist. I mean, localization can be faced starting with perhaps less electricity intensive segments and supported through any targeted industrial and energy policies. And also, again, you also need to link the whole debate with the need to improve the industrialization, with the need to improve the demand. So it's, I mean, the debate needs to go a little beyond, I think, perhaps the question of whether Pakistan is the cheaper than China today, but whether it also wants to remain a pure importer of a strategic energy technology, or perhaps also gradually build domestic capacity alongside the broader energy sector reforms that we have been talking about. So I think I'll shortly come to Shiraz for the point around the battery storage as well, but I think two of our colleagues have their hands up. I think Ashfaq Saab, you can go first, and then I'll come to Dr. Hassan Daud.
Ji, thank you very much. Actually, we are not against the localization. Everybody would love to do that because we are already short of, we always remain short of dollars. But we need to understand what value proposition we are bringing on the table. At the moment, module assembly, as I told, 10-12% part of the process, testing and logistics 5 to 6%. So can we plan a business strategy on 15% value addition in any sort of manufacturing? Number one. Number two, we had shared earlier with EDB 2 3 years ago. 2 years ago, I think there was a study done by Australian PV Institute, Foundations for Solar PV Manufacturing in Australia. It was published in December 2023. I will share with you guys, and you may go through it. They planned. It was like supported by various multinational company like Deloitte, Renewable, ITP Renewables, Bright Dimension. I can share that with you. That has a very systematic approach towards localization of PV manufacturing. So I think we need a systematic approach rather emotional approach. And I would like to say that first and foremost, we need to digitalize our grid. That's the main problem we are facing, and everything uh, actually they are just making everyone against they're making every good thing like solar is something anti-grid, and it's not because it's solar, because they are exposed by solar. So we need to digitize those things first, and we need to train our human resource first, then we can think of uh, go for manufacturing. Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much. I think coming to Dr. Hassan.
Yeah, thank you. And I would take a lead from what has been said.
Dr.
And
Hassan, again, we cannot hear you.
Yeah.
Or can hear you really slowly.
Yeah, so from where what I was saying, and I will say it again, and from taking the lead, I would request Faisal and also Dr. Sun to please also make one model for green SCZ. I've been hearing a lot about green SCZ in SDPI and elsewhere. I've been every time I go to industries or any SCZ related seminar, there's always a talk of green SCZ. I've done some literature, but I really don't understand what green SCZ translated to. Is it about the industry which will be brought in into the SCZ, or is it just about the utilities using solar as the form of energy, which actually is not as good as the stronger version of energy, as the base load. So I would also request you to please make a pathway for green SCZ, uh, letting us explain and understand here what green SCZ in your recommendation means and what should be the roadmap for that, because the color of SCZ changes, but the implementation of that SCZ does not change. I've heard about blue SCZs also, green SCZ quite frequently, brown SCZs, and the normal SCZs. So I would really, based on what you have done in your report is fantastic. So therefore, I'm encouraged to say and request you to work on these green SEZs for us also.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Dr. Hassan. Just very briefly from Umesh, and then we'll move towards the discussion because a lot of comments and suggestions are coming from all platforms. So, Umesh, and then I'll be coming to Shiraz and other colleagues.
Yeah, okay. Dr. Faisal is in partial agreement with me while I'm in complete agreement with him. What he mentioned is perfectly all right, and perhaps I wasn't able to convey my point across. Um, it's clear that demand exists. I'm very much a fan of localization, and this is why I led the study that I mentioned. In the last 4 or 5 minutes that I mean that I talked and mentioned some points, I actually wanted to highlight few of the barriers that we will encounter if we um, think about this green industrialization, if we think about um, localizing this PV manufacturing, because in my opinion, this solar rush was a huge success story for Pakistan. And localizing PV manufacturing can be the next huge success story for Pakistan. And it will essentially build, it would actually provide a blueprint for our green industry to establish on and to spur the growth of industry in Pakistan and so on and so forth. Just in case if my point wasn't somehow conveyed clearly, I thought to clarify it, but the main intention was to highlight the challenges that we may face if we go towards this idea of PV manufacturing. Thank you.
Sure. Thank you so much, Umesh. Before moving forward, let me check if Dr. Ishan wants to add anything before we move towards the discussion.
Oh, thanks, Ubed. I really enjoyed the conversation here. I think just a couple of thoughts. I think, yeah, from the big picture question, I want to echo what Dr. Hassan mentioned about the political will. I think that's really important. I think we need, yeah, people who can make influence on policy and the markets to take up this idea. I think this is why we are organizing this conversation. I think we need to start from somewhere. I think I can hear from the room, from all colleagues here, there is a consensus to push for green industrialization. I think we all agree on that. But I think the question is how we can do that and how we can start. Although we have this policy roadmap, but I think we need to find, yeah, I think specific points of action. So I think this is why I think we have to. The next step, I think, for us is to think about like where we can start and how to start the journey. And then I think regarding the question on like the barriers, especially the market barriers, I think of course I think we have to think about what's the added value here. So I think the value addition is an argument that has been made by all countries when they engage with China on like green trade or green investments. And then the question is, yeah, I think how what value we can add. I think that very much depends on the local context. We have done some assessment already here, looking at the readiness of the Pakistan market. That's why we think about starting from some parts of the supply chain, for example, start with assembly and some small panels. But of course, we still need to do more kind of cost benefit analysis. I think that's probably the next step we can for us as researchers to make more contributions to the debate. But I think again, I think the overall I think the overall reaction for me is again, I think we have to think about the longer term. So we need a long-term strategy, but I think aligned with short-term actions. So here I think we also mentioned about the challenges on the electricity price. But I think this is not something that you can fix overnight, right? I think the question is like how we can start think about a long-term journey where we can trying to invest in the longer term strategically. That means also move resources around and then trying to fix the problem. But I think this is not something we're going to change overnight. So I think added value at the beginning. Also, you need to make early investment. I think this is the point that Faisal mentioned earlier as well. So I think, yeah, as long as we have this vision and then we have a clear strategy, and then I think even like some additional initial investment, if the government and also some businesses willing to commit, and then I think there is a chance. Otherwise, we get stuck. We can never move. I think that's important. It's not an emotional argument, but I think you have to think about how to find the levers and then trying to make tweaks and then trying to initiate a larger change over time. I think that's something we have to think about. So really think about past dependencies in that way to trigger past dependent processes for a larger and longer term changes. So I'll stop here, but I really want to hear thoughts from other colleagues. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Dr. Ishan. No, very rightly pointed out. So moving towards the discussion, let me ask if any of the colleagues, if you have, I think we can already see two hands up. Dr. Nadia wants to add. I think we also have Shiraz here with us. And if you have any questions, please feel free to drop them in the chat or the Q&A box. And if you're joining us from the LinkedIn, please post them in the comments. So let's move towards the discussion session. I think I'll first come to Shiraz. Shiraz wanted to add some points. So yes, over to you.
Thank you so much, Ubaid, and thank you so much to the colleagues who have sort of mentioned what would be the next roadmap for Pakistan would be. And I would very rightly agree with Dr. Ishan that the purpose of this conversation should be to how can we start on the journey towards local manufacturing and the localization of the renewable energy value chain. I at Renewables First, we believe that it's time for us to pivot towards what's highly impactful for Pakistan as of now, because we do know that we have imported over 50 gigawatt of solar panels, and they have in terms of market value, the market has mobilized around 17 billion in the private capital. But what we see that maybe at this point in time, if we build on localizing the solar value chain, the overall impact would be a bit marginal. But then the overall window of opportunity isn't closed yet. And we see that in case of other technologies, it has already been here. For example, the next phase of Pakistan energy transition would be in battery energy storage systems. We are already seeing a rush in battery technologies. Then as NEPRA has updated its prosumer regulations, and it has specifically mentioned about the new kind of inverter technologies that is required. So inverters and power electronics would be one phase where the industrial localization opportunity can exist. And then maybe with a lot of these hybrid solutions and grid supporting technologies, as Afaq Saab was mentioning, because as of now, we have a very limited data visibility on how the distributed solar quantum in terms of electricity generation, what electricity generation is coming out of it. So maybe a lot of those communication protocols and energy management systems would be something that we can look forward to. So we at Renewables First have sort of initiated the first step towards that, and we are currently working on understanding the market dynamics around the battery energy storage system, which is, we feel, the next part of this value chain would be. So in terms of that, we see that the window of localization opportunities in batteries and associated electronics do exist, but there are sort of 2 to 3 main barriers as of now, and they are sort of aligned with the policy recommendations for from this report as well, that we don't have a very clear policy and regulatory structures for localization, and the incentive mechanism essentially is misaligned. So for example, in case of batteries, if a person imports a finished product from China, he has to pay, let's say, around 11% of the custom duty on that product. But if someone is manufacturing locally and they want to import or the components or the parts of those batteries, they also have to pay that same sort of import duties. So that mismatch essentially on the finished products and the individual components exist. And then on in terms of regulatory structures, there is also weak standards and life cycle regulations. We are seeing a lot of second life cycle batteries coming in from China and Pakistan, which essentially sort of derails the momentum and the incentive for industrial manufacturer who has been producing it locally here in Pakistan, because the price competitiveness in that case doesn't make the sense. And then lastly, another thing that has been come into highlights is that though we have sort of established structures for technology transfer and facilitation, sort of mechanisms exist from SIFC, from Board of Investments, and from SEZs, but they are mostly aligned towards the large industrial setups. In case if someone wants to have sort of small scale industry or SMEs, they don't have the access to right window of opportunities for them. So these are a few sort of the structural barriers that exist. But in terms of localization, the next step, I feel like that what we see that the timeline is very sensitive, because we have missed or sort of the conversation that we are having right now is that maybe the opportunity for solar localization is in the longer run, but I feel that for batteries, it's the time of opportunity is right now, and a very forward-looking policy design could essentially help in that.
Thank you. Thank
Yeah,
you so
over
much,
to Brad.
Shiraz. Very well noted points and suggestions. And I think the discussion around the battery is also something we're going to come on. So please, I think Miss Nadia wanted to add something. Miss Nadia, if you can, please. And I'll request everyone to be a little brief, as we have to actually conclude it by in the next 8 to 10 minutes. So Miss Nadia, I think your mic is there, please.
Thank you very much. Yes, and I really appreciate SDPI on this work and report launch. And I really appreciate the gesture from all the institutions, private sector as well as industry, saying that we should move forward towards PV localization. I am, of course, an expert of PV, solar energy, from US Pakistan Center for Advanced Studies in Energy at National University of Sciences and Technology, NUST. So I will just want you to add something regarding PV technology manufacturing, local manufacturing. We studied and developed a brief business model for this technology and its localization here in Pakistan, and we have seen that it's yet a bit costly. Of course, all factors are very much evident to us all. So we can hope that with passage of time, these factors can be, you can say, cancelled or can be minimized by the government actions and policies. But in parallel, as mentioned by, I think, Afaq Sahab from PSA, that we should create manpower for this field. So we must, I really agree that we must have to start from here. So we should start such kind of trainings. But someone said that Pakistani institutions may not be capable to do such kind of trainings, but I really reject it, because I don't agree, because Pakistani institutions and industry has not given this, you can say, opportunity to show their capacity. We can define trainings for such kind of industry to create manpower beforehand, and we can join hands with the industry. Of course, some of the industry is already working in this field as well. So we should jointly work together to create this manpower, and we may initiate such kind of training programs under PSDP programs, because these are well-defined platforms to create such kind of manpower. So I really suggest this. There can be many other suggestions, but I know and the time is
Thank you
short.
so much, Dr. Nadi. And I think very rightly, one of the key recommendations also mentioned in this is the last one, that is to strengthen academia industry nexus to promote joint R&D with the Chinese partners to innovation centers as well. I think Mirza Saab wants to add something. Tanveer Saab, please go ahead.
Yes, Assalamualaikum. I want to add my comments, but in a sort of a question answer mode. And for my questions, I would request 3-4 answers only in order to really evaluate what we are discussing at the moment. First of all, let me thank all the forum. It's an excellent report. Thank you very much, Dr. Sab. And thank you very much, SCPI, for inviting me on this very crucial debate on over here. What I feel is that we are missing one point. As I just mentioned, I need 3-4 answers only. How much solar panel integration, more of the solar panel integration we want in Pakistan now? In terms of megawatt or gigawatt, how much we want?
Sorry, can I respond?
Okay. Then, as the reports, the published reports, we have already imported around 27,000 megawatt in the first 9 months of this fiscal year. Okay. So, what exactly we want for doing a local manufacturing to produce per year for the 5 years plan? These are the basic questions actually. If at the moment we are at the stage where we have imported around almost 40 or 50,000 megawatt of solar panels, what we are thinking of the total installed capacity, which is already 40,000 of the megawatt, including all the other resources, including all the other RE projects, including the wind, the hydro, the other LNGs, coal, where we want to go actually. So the report does say very good aspects of sales and marketing, but what is the plan for manufacturer that if he wanted to come over here and to invest in plant for the manufacturing of the solar panels, what is his annual production capacity to cater for the Pakistan? Do we really want to make only the solar projects and remove all the other resources from this network? That is going to be a debate. The third thing, the other final thing is, what is the safety and security? I'm not talking about the safety and security of the human beings, but did we check out the route from where the raw material will come in for the manufacturing of the solar panels? The biggest raw material, as we know, is silica, and silica is either in Balochistan or is in Sindh. Sindh could be a safe site, but what about the Balochistan? How much capacity we are going to bring it per day? So these are some of the thought processes from my side.
Okay.
And thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Tanveer Saab, and I'll request, I think Faisal Saab to just again very summarizing the main question. Also, I'm also linking it one question we have received online. That the question is where exactly is the demand if you already have filled pretty much the vacuum that was there previously. Now you can already see a lot of solar PV installations. So where exactly is the demand? I think the report in itself does point towards an export-oriented and the angle as well. But Faisal Saab, I'll request you to respond.
Yeah. Thank you, Abed. I think Dr. Tanveer Saab has raised a very pertinent questions, and obviously these are the questions which should be responded by policymakers and the planners. But we have two approaches to answer this question. The first is we have indicative generation capacity expansion plan. which is kind of Bible documents from planning perspective. So if we look at the IGSEP, the current IGSEP, which is currently under the regulatory approval process, as of currently we have around 42,000 megawatts of capacity, and by 2035 that will be going to increase to 64,000 megawatts under normal growth scenario. Regarding the solar contribution, I think right now there's it's 8% in the capacity share, in the grid capacity, and going to be 18% in 2035. And already we have a 50% share of clean energy in our grid, 41% of the renewable and hydro, and 9% of the nuclear. And that is going to be increased to 62% by 2035, and 60, if we include nuclear, that is going to increase to 69%. So this is just the capacity, but in terms of solar and wind, because these are intermittent sources, so these are not dispatchable technologies. So actual the actual what matters is actual generation. So even the actual generation on grid-based electricity is going to increase from current 136,000 gigawatt hours in 2025 to 176,000 gigawatt hour in 2035, and the share of solar will be going to increase from 8% to 18%. So these are the these actually this is a document which only provides a grid-based number. But Dr. Saab has particularly mentioned about overall grid, overall numbers of the solar installations in the energy mix. I can maximum talk about the net metering, which is gradually increasing. I think 300-400 megawatts per month, and it's the IGSEP set a quantum of 8,000 megawatts. But for non-grid solar installations, we don't have any numbers, and that is the issue. That's why that report is important. Obviously, the scope of the report is not it just touch the one area, which is the localization of the solar PV chain. We are not talking about the future distributed generation capacity, and that is largely undocumented. And I think that is the one area, particular area, where we need to work, and without documentation of that large solar flex, so you will be in kind of big mess in the future. So and that will create a problem in the planning and the policy perspective. So obviously that need to be mapped, that need to be documented, and then need to be synchronized or integrated in the overall national energy planning. So this is a right question that we don't know. But like the renewable first, they talk about 50 gigawatts, but mostly the number are based on the import numbers. They are not fully installed number. But if we see these projections, even then Pakistan has I think very good markets for the localization. And in future, I think there's a kind of area where future work can be done on actual demand of the solar distributed solar installation in Pakistan. But that report provide kind of a starting point to think about the localization of this large solar influx, which is going to be imported in Pakistan, going to be installed in future. So right now, obviously, there is no fixed number. No one can provide you a number that this number is going to be installed in the future. But unless we see at the IGSEP or other planning documents that are mostly rely on the grid connected projects. So this is an emerging area, and we need to think about to integrate this in our national policy planning framework, and we need to move away from that large grid connected projects towards these distributed solar solution to create a balanced markets.
Thank you so much, Faisal Saab. I know I fully understand that the question that has been posed requires again a lot of detailed discussion, but thank you for highlighting this. Faq Saab, just in the interest of time, I think we're already 4 minutes above. Let me move to Dr. Hina Aslam for conclusion, and then perhaps we can have a follow-up session again as well. So Dr. Hina, again, very briefly, I mean, everyone's working around this knows Dr. Hina is also leading this project in Pakistan. She is also a visiting fellow at SDP and also fellow at Australian National University College of Law, Governance and Policy. So Dr. Hina, over to you for, I mean, I know it's a difficult job concluding this session particularly, but yes, over to you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ubaid. I'm not sure that I'm in a right position because all of the panelists have been so helpful with all these grounded insights they've provided. I feel like a lot have been covered and the discussion can go on forever and for many hours. But I think in the interest of time, I would just like to begin with thanking all of the guests and the panelists for taking out the time and sharing their perspectives on this really important report. And I would like to acknowledge and applaud the team behind this report, Dr. Ishian, Faisal, Aisha, Sarim, and Ubaid yourself. And the report itself speaks directly to the realities of Pakistan's energy transition, especially in the space of the solar boom that has been experienced in this energy ecosystem recently in Pakistan. I think so. The more of the today's discussion is about reinforcing why the solar boom is happening and how it's being driven by the real economic signals and the decisions at the policy level. I think it's been very timely, and I'm happy to see the momentum and the interest around this specific topic, especially in the light of the last question raised in terms of how much more do we need and how much more can we envision. I think as adding to the Faisal's point on how it should be part of the planning, and we don't have the real numbers on the off-grid. I think if we align it with the policy that says that we need to have 60%, so I think we are still quite short of what we require in terms of the renewable energy in the form of solar. But that's again, it does need a lot of work and evidence based on real data and numbers that we need to build in. But this is a really important insight that I feel we can take forward and make notes. So I think I'll just quickly start up with just not just saying like how important it has been for the Pakistan's energy transition program, but also it remains an important component of the with the perspective of the Pakistan's economic situation and the dependence on the imported technologies and limited economic spillovers. So much of the value that we need to generate through this transition comes around how do we manufacture these technologies locally, domestically, utilizing the skills of the local youth, the local people with the technological innovation to happen in Pakistan and to take this forward. And without any deliberate and timely intervention through policy and through other measures, I think the imbalance remains, and that eventually risks turning this major opportunity into a missed opportunity from a structural economic perspective. And how we can reframe these opportunities, I think, comes not just by notwithstanding the crucial role that solar plays in the form of renewables in the climate debate, but also as a strategic opportunity for economic and industrial development in Pakistan. And the core challenge remains that while we are transitioning, we need to think about why and how it can be transitioned. This transition could happen in a more inclusive, in a more just, and in a more long-term sustainable growth manner. If you look at globally, clean energy supply chains are being restructured, and the companies are seeking to include more diversity, more diversified channels to move closer to the market needs and the fast-growing markets around the world. If you look at the Pakistan's growing solar demand, the location and the existing economic linkages, it brings it positions it quite well to be able to participate in these global dynamics, and it gives an opportunity with the help of clarity in policy, with the help of incentives, with the help of institutional coordination to build this long-term strategic vision. So looking at the key takeaways and the recommendations that we have from this report and the discussion that just held this today, I think the more forward-looking approach would be a coordinated national approach, which aligns with the energy policy, the industrial policy, the climate objectives, and skill development, and the capacity. And it requires a transition pathway that does not includes all these technological development, but have inclusive pathway for the people to participate, reduce inequality, and other benefits for the local communities who are around those areas, let's say, who are deprived of the basic necessities. So the environmental sustainability comes with a lot of social and economic responsibility that requires long-term system resilience in this space. So given the interest of time, I do feel that these are a lot more, the discussion that happened today provides a lot more perspective on how the future should be looking like, and how these recommendations should be uptaken by the decision makers and the policy makers in this space, and help the country pave a way towards a cleaner future for Pakistan. Thank you to all the partner associations and the stakeholders who have been part of this project, who have been part of this initiative. And thanks for the opportunity to conclude this session. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Dr. Hina, for concluding it really, really precisely. And thank you so much again, everyone, for joining us today. I think the report is already out and will be, you all can kind of see it. We'll post the link really shortly on once again on the socials of SDPI as well. And even now the executive summary of the report that is also in Chinese will also be available. We'll shortly update the link there as well. But let's stay connected. Again, it requires a lot of discussions going forward from this point. So thank you so much once again, everyone. Thank you. Hafiz. Have a good day.
Thank you. Allah Hafiz.
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye-bye. Take care. Allah.